buildings dated back to the 13th century, when the town was a bustling port, serving Glasgow, 30 or so miles up the coast. Later, as Glasgow prospered under the Victorians, those canny old tobacco barons, sugar lords and spice dons, so did Ardgirvan. Handsome sandstone villas went up along the main roads into town and shops thrived on the high street. A fine wrought iron bridge spanned the River Ardgirvan in the town centre, and tall, ornate street lamps threw orange-yellow pools of gaslight across the broad avenues and cobbled streets. Great shipments of coal and lumber from the local mines and sawmills were loaded at the harbour and sent up the water to help build the great ships in Clydeside. The first half of the 20th century was hard all round, as it was for pretty much everybody. But the place chugged along well enough. Plentiful council housing sprung up after the war, brown pebble-dash terraces with little squares of garden behind them for the veterans to grow carrots. Then, in 1966, it was decided that Ardgirvan was to become Scotland's last new town, one of the poured concrete paradises designed to help ease overpopulation in the big cities. Hundreds of acres of woodland vanished under the steel treads of diggers as roads were improved, roundabouts and bypasses were built, and fresh estates of council houses, these ones white as polo mints, went up around what had been the outskirts of the town. Government money was used to build factory units to house the companies that, drawn by sweet rental deals and cheap local labour, and about to be surfing the mid-70s economic boom, would surely flock to the town. Glasgow was invited to send its poor, huddled masses down the coast for a better life. Well, the Glasgow people came all right, but the mid-70s economic boom was more reluctant to show its face. In fact, it decided to skip the party altogether. Instead of reverberating with the bustling sound of small companies growing bigger, the huge prefabricated units were soon echoing to the tinkle of glass, the crinkle of the glue bag, and the snake hiss of the aerosol can as the vandals delighted in their newfound playgrounds. What did come along at the end of the 70s, when Pauline was taking her first steps, was something entirely different. Gary, 2 years older than Pauline, could dimly remember his mum saying that it might be a nice wee change to have a lady Prime Minister. She didn't think that for very long. Gary's mum's potted history of the town went something like this. Ardgirvan was an idyllic coastal community filled with happy hobbits who knew and trusted each other. A place where you left your doors and windows open when you went away on holiday, presumably, Pauline thought, so that your neighbours could pop in and water your flowering money trees, and where there was no poverty or violence. After a hard week digging coal or sawing timber, the men would drink 2 pints of beer on a Friday night before going home to dutiful wives and happy children. Children who ran laughing through sunlit woodland glades and whose rare bouts of apple scrumping were the only crimes in this unfallen Eden. Then the Glasgow people came. And they brought knives and guns and drug dealing and gangs and prostitution and devil dogs and AIDS and gambling and ram raiding and graffiti and mugging and Indian restaurants and video nasties and greenhouse gases and power cuts and the 3-day week and unemployment and paedophilia. How could the hobbits survive these savages? Although it stemmed from very different reasons, Pauline's dislike of Ardgirvan Newtown was the only thing she had in common with her mother-in-law. Gary, of course, loved living here, in this golf-studded stretch of Ayrshire that ran from Largs in the north to Ayr in the south. Pauline, impatient at the lights now, had been the May Day Queen. Her family's house had been festooned with ribbons and streamers. There had been stories about her in the local paper. On the big day itself, she had travelled at the head of the great procession in a horse-drawn carriage, waving at the throngs who turned out to cheer her royal progress and take her photograph. As the flashbulbs crackled against the spring sky for one glorious afternoon, the 14-year-old Pauline had felt like she was at the centre of the universe, exactly where she was meant to be. Her